Hey yo, it's your boy Ancient Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. We got the usual suspects of Spigs18 or Anthony, and we have AD or Alpha Dean. And Dean, why are we here today?
Well, the advent of your best game ever on its way out for Monty Cook Games, we decided that why not? Let's talk about your worst game ever. So today, me, Anthony, and Al are going to talk to you people out there in internet land and beyond about our worst games ever. Anthony?
Yeah, it should be a great time. So I figure for this video, we'll break it down into two categories: your worst game ever as a player and your worst game ever as a GM. And any GM that tells you that they didn't have a worst game ever as a GM, they're liars, because everyone lays an egg every once in a while. So I guess we'll start off with, you guys want to start off with worst game ever as a player?
Sounds good.
All right, I'll go first and we'll go right into it. I'll give you a little backstory of my worst game ever. I've been gaming for, everybody knows, for over 20 years, but during the 4th edition era of D&D, I took a little break. I maybe had like a 4-year break, 4 or 5-year break where I wasn't necessarily playing games or running games. I was still collecting RPGs, but just more for like personal pleasure of reading the books. So I had a good 5-year gap where I wasn't playing or running anything, and that's when I really started hanging out with Al, and he showed signs that he wanted to like play more games, and we got a group together, and and that's how we got like really back into gaming. So
That's how I started gaming, just as an aside.
So I ran a couple of, I think it was like 5e just came out. No, actually we started with Pathfinder and then we went to 5e. But I started catching the bug. So even when we weren't having a bi-weekly game, I really wanted to game. So we discovered Roll20. So I applied for a 5e game on Roll20. And mind you, this was, I believe, only the Player's Handbook was out at this time. I could be wrong. It might have been the Player's Handbook and I know the DM's guy wasn't out yet. It might have been the Player's Handbook and Monster Manual, but that's neither here nor there. Right. So I went on Roll20, and this guy had what sounded like an interesting game. I'm not going to name any names, and he made you fill out a questionnaire. So I was like, oh, this guy really knows what he's doing. Like he was only accepting applications, and there was like 50 people that applied. And I know I made a gnome monk. So, I wrote my little backstory, sent it in, and I got accepted. And I was like, okay, this is cool. So there was 5 players in the game. And first telltale sign that we was, in for a bad experience was, we all logged on Roll20, and I noticed that there was 8 people. Like he had 8, 8 characters. So I was like, oh, this is a little weird. There's 8 people playing. It turns out that 3 of the players were NPCs that he created to run with the party. Which, first of all, one NPC...
It's too many.
It's too many. It's too many. If you have
unless they really want a companion or something.
Yeah. If you have a 5-person party, one NPC, you don't need an NPC. Yeah. You should be covering all the bases with 5 players. So I was like, okay, this is a little weird, but I'm gonna give it a shot. So we're playing, and like as the game progressed, I noticed that every scene, whatever we needed or any dialogue that needed to be exchanged, it was his NPC that was with the party talking to the NPC in the game. So it was like literally
him monologuing.
Him monologuing and talking to himself. So we got an hour into the game, and I was like, yo, this is a little weird. This is a little funky. So, and I was the only one that noticed it. There was I can't remember her name, but there was a lady that was playing with us, and she just cut off, like literally.
She just cut
off, right? So she just, and I know she was playing a male barbarian, right? And then we were all like, "Hey, where's this guy?" Stop responding, logged off of Roll20, So I was like, okay, this game is ending. This is like turning left. So I was almost like wanted to quit, but then I was sort of intrigued because I wanted to see, where this was heading.
The morbid fascination.
Yeah. So then we got into what looked like an aqueduct sewer system. And you know the old expression, rock falls, party dies. Yeah. I don't know he literally did that. We had one of our characters that said, there was like a 3-way split in this aqueduct, and I'm guessing that he wanted everybody to go to the right. Someone in the party was like, "No, I'm running to the center," and he kept on like stating stuff like, "Oh, you smell like toxic fumes," even though. How do you smell toxic fumes? But he was saying you smell toxic fumes. And then he was like, "Oh, I don't care, I'm going." He literally did rock fall. The ceiling gets weak, collapse, and knocks you unconscious. So then he was like knocked out. And then we were all like, "Hey, he can't roll." And, like there's no roll.
No, he just got Jeremiah in 5e or whatever you were playing.
Yeah, we were playing 5e. So then he got hit. So I was like, "Oh, this is really bad."
Oh boy.
So then then he's out the game. Like he's out the game. He was like, F that, screw you, this game sucks. And he raged quit. So now there's 3 of us with 3 NPCs. So we continue. Now we're like an hour and a half, 2 hours into the game. Right? And we get to the big boss fight. Right? And you would think, okay, he didn't let us do anything. He didn't let us talk to anybody. We were literally like the lackeys of these 3 characters. In the big boss fight, we get to the big boss fight. The big boss was immune to any non-magical weapons. And granted, we were all first-party characters, so no one had...
First level?
Yeah, we were all first level. So no one had magical weapons, right? But guess who had magical weapons?
The 3 NPCs.
The 3 NPCs. So we literally spent the boss fight watching his 3 NPCs beat the crap. And our job was to protect them by fighting the minions while they fought the big boss. So the killing blow was him killing his own creature, his NPC killing his own creature. So then that wasn't the kicker, though. So then the game is over, right? One other person now immediately logs off. So it's me, there's one other guy talking to the DM. And he was telling us, "Oh, thank you for playing." The usual spiel that most GMs give everyone. "Thanks, I really appreciate it." So then he asks the dreaded question that you should never ask if you don't want a response. He asks, "How was the session?"
Oh boy. Oh.
So then,
did you have a Dean moment?
So I was like, I was like, first off. So first thing I was like,
first off,
he had a couple of Dean moments.
Yeah. So I gave him the rose and the thorn. I said, "Thank you for inviting me. There goes your rose. I appreciate the invitation." But usually when you have a group or party the size of 5, you shouldn't have any NPCs. And you damn well shouldn't have any NPCs that control the narrative. I said, you basically didn't allow us to do anything. Like, we were basically lackeys for you to play with your own characters.
Yeah, that's so ridiculous. Like,
play with yourself.
Yeah, why even have other people there? Just like roll dice in your basement by yourself. Like,
it was a choose your own path without any path to choose.
And it would have been so bad if I would have knew he was a newer GM from the get-go, but that's not what he advertised on Roll20. Like, he was a nice enough guy, because after when we started talking, I realized that this was like the 3rd game he ever ran, and he wasn't very experienced. And that would have been cool and I probably still would have played the game, but if he would have told us that up front, I think the players would have been more inclined to give him advice during the game.
They would have been more forgiving.
But since he asked for a full backstory and interviews and all that, everyone was under the assumption that, not to be rude, but that he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, I mean, when you
Okay.
No, I was
No,
gonna
go
say
ahead.
when you advertise, like, he wasn't even advertising that he was an experienced GM. He was just, the process you said. When such a process is involved, just to play a game of any tabletop game,
Yeah.
you gotta believe that the person who's doing it really wants the cream of the crop and that he really knows
Yeah.
what he's doing. Like,
Yeah.
Or that the person just has some intricately designed adventure that's going to, that he's parsing together something from the players. I mean, I know I run one shots, I've run stuff in like local stores like that where I send out a questionnaire or something because I'm trying to put together a group of people who are like minded who are going to, push a story in a certain direction. So like you said, either you want the cream of the crop or you want people who are going to,
A
shine in
certain
the story.
a certain style of play style that
Right.
would fit your story. I totally get that.
Yeah.
He was a nice enough guy. Like I don't want to fault the guy or really hammer the nail in his coffin, but when he was asking oh hey hey, what can I do to make this game better? Me and the other guy's response was like eliminate the NPCs and don't create villains that can't be harmed by the weapons of the players, and do not put them in a situation where they have zero access to stop your big bad. It's a one shot. Like,
Right.
I'm not saying that
hero-
you can't kill characters.
Players
It's
aren't
one
the
shot.
star. Look, it's no matter. It's just the way I look at it overall, as a whole. Whether I'm a player or I'm the GM, if the players aren't the star of the story, why do I have you there?
exactly. That's
What am I doing?
what, I'm gonna start calling my players the stars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. On tonight's episode, guest starring.
All right. So, in hindsight, how do you think this game could have been improved and corrected?
I mean, you already.
I'll say I'll go first. I think the first thing I should have did was I should have been more vocal, and I think that's probably going to be a running theme in a lot of our answers. But communication is the key. And when the first person quit, when the rock, literally rock fell, he died. I should have said, "Hey,
that's not cool.
This is not cool. This makes no sense." And I think I should have been more proactive in my communication. And there's a way of talking to people without, being rude about it. But I think that he was a nice enough guy that he probably would have took the feedback mid-game and improved the rest of the session.
Yeah, I mean, that is. I honestly don't really know any other solutions there other than to, when you see things going south, to leave if you don't want to have that conversation or confrontation. But, some people are afraid to give critiques. And in that situation, sometimes leaving might be the best option, like that lady did. You avoid the confrontation.
That
but
was hilarious.
It hurts feelings, maybe, but. I mean, some people are really afraid of even saying like, "Whoa, I'm not enjoying your play style" or whatever have you. They would rather seem like a jerk than try to like hurt their feelings or something.
Yeah, though it was hilarious, it was a little rude to the rest of the players, because we wasted like 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, so you'll come off as a jerk. It's like it's a jerk move, but again, it might be necessary for some people who don't have the courage to speak up.
You got to think about it. I mean, and I'm not being funny, but a few years ago, like when you're talking about when 5e first came out, and you compare that to now, we live in a society right now of a lot of heavy sensitivity. And I'm just being as politically correct about it as I can. So, it's so hard. You never know, what you're going to say, how people are going to take it. I mean, for me, I think I would have just graciously bowed out. I don't think I would have like hung up, on like that. But I know myself, I'd have been like, "Hey, you know what? I'm sorry, something just came up. I gotta go."
Just lie.
Yeah.
The solution is to lie. It's on the record now. He said his solution is to lie.
Yeah, lie to you. I will lie to spare your feelings because, I mean, it's just the society we live in today. You know what? Because, I mean, I'm not going to be mean to you, but I got to tell you the truth. If you I'm the type of person, don't ask me a question you don't really want an answer to. Because you guys know me. You know I'm gonna tell the truth.
You're gonna give us an honest answer, but that's what I love about you. That's why you're my brother, because you're gonna always give me an honest answer.
Yeah, I
I'd
mean,
rather have tell me somebody, hey, this sucks, than say, oh, you know, this is. I'd rather hear that critique than, oh, hey, no, it's okay, and let me
right, and then
go
you keep
around.
doing the same thing. You know, I mean, so I know, I know it sounds kind of shitty, to say that I would, lie to the person. But the only reason I'm saying that is because I'm just so tired of today. When I'm honest with a person, then I get called into the office at work. I'm serious. Guy asked a question just a few days ago. Got called into the office at work because they needed to go over. Well, how did you say that?
Oh boy, maybe
Um,
we shouldn't
the
touch too much
exact way
on
you
this.
just said it. I
you,
mean, it's
you,
just crap.
you know what's funny? The response you gave, this person actually had two people quit, and they both went the polar opposites. One guy was like, "Screw you, this game sucks," rage quit, and the other one just disappeared. No one was actually, say, "Hey, no one used your method or the truth method. Hey, this isn't the
Right.
game for me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for wasting your time, but
Exactly.
I'm gonna respectfully bow out." I
Right.
think that was probably the proper way of handling it.
Yeah.
So that was my worst game ever as a player, guys.
um,
Wow. That's pretty bad.
I'll
Was
go
I,
How
next,
about
I
you,
I,
Al?
guess.
How about you, Al?
Yeah, I'll go. So my worst game ever. As I mentioned earlier, I didn't start playing too long ago, so I haven't really played as many games as these guys. So my games are, not too plentiful to speak of. And on top of that, most of my gaming is done with these two gentlemen and a handful of awesome people on Cypher Unlimited. So pretty much 99.9999999% of my games have been awesome. So, time to speak of the one bad game I've experienced, basically. So, it was a Numenera mini campaign. It was advertised as such. And it was my first time playing Numenera. Literally. Like, I got into Cypher System as far as Monty Cook game stuff goes. It wasn't Numenera. So I was like, oh, shoot, I get to play Numenera finally. Yeah, they're playing at the time I'm available to. Oh, wow, this is going to be awesome. One of the people on the server at the time, Joanna, she was playing in that too. And I was like, oh, she's playing awesome. Like, yeah, I get to play with her. I haven't played with her before. That's going to be great. And we start a room for it. We start talking in the room. There's a lot of like pre-game work, right? Like, backstories, all that, what kind of character you're making, all that stuff, right? And I always loved the focus crafts unique objects. I love that focus so much, so much. And I forget what got the idea in my head, but I wanted to play like a barista, like someone who can craft like brews on fly. Like he's such a masterful brewer. Like he's specialized in whatever, extracting the whatever from anything to make a brew, right? And like I was super excited about playing it because I hadn't played it before. I was so excited. Like I get to play, and I get to do such a silly concept that he's okay. Like he didn't tell me no or anything. He was like, oh, he's like, yeah, go for it. That sounds awesome. Other people seem to enjoy it, and yeah. So after I guess it was like a week or so, we got all our backstories made up, all our connections, all that stuff we did, right? And we finally get to start playing. And I'm actually pretty excited. Like, again, I don't game too often or too much, so when I actually do game, I'm pretty excited. Especially when I'm the player. Like, oh, wow, I'm never the player. Except when Anthony might be the GM, but these days mostly GM. But anyways, so super excited to be a player. The Numenera game, my first Numenera game, right? And I honestly forget the story he set up. I guess it wasn't memorable. I don't know. Maybe the frustrations with the game made me block it out. I honestly don't remember the whole setup. But we ended up in an abandoned, I guess, town made of, metal building, like a futuristic town or something. And we didn't know where anything was or anything. It was like a sprawling city with, like an industrial complex or something, right? So it was lots to explore, right? So basically, the whole session was spent like trying to figure out where things were and where to go. And again, I don't even remember the objective because I was frustrated. But anyway, so we finally get to a point where we get to like this data access panel, something, right? And it turns on. We're expecting like a map or something. We're like, awesome, yeah. Now we can tell where things are. Like, it'll give us it was broken or whatever. We fixed it, and then we couldn't really like interact with the map or anything. What happened to be in the computer was like an AI, which was an NPC, and I think he didn't speak our common language. We had to have someone translate or something. I forget, or maybe his translator speakers were broken. We had to go fix it. I think that was it. Actually, I think that was actually it. It was malfunctioning, and we had to go some other place in the huge complex to fix it so we could actually talk to it, right? And I think it had enough of a like a what is it? Enough to talk to us that it could like tell us where we needed to go to fix it, but that's about it. So we go there, right? I forget what kind of enemies or bad guys, like some robots or some nonsense, right? And we dispense them, disperse them, whatever, kill them. And I'm like, all right, so what can I salvage from this to make something to drink? Like, is there like some organic, like, where they bio, like, whatever? He's like, no, it's just oil. Like, I forget exactly how it was, but like, he was like, nah, you can't really craft from that stuff. I was like, oh boy, this is not, like, that was sign number one. Like, and I was like, oh, I was so excited and it's
use your character.
Yeah, and it's so easy to do this in Cypher system. Like, I mean, Numenera, whatever, it's the same thing. Yeah. So you just be like, all right, yeah. If I was the GM and that, wait, let me not jump to the like solution point. But that might not even be a solution because I'm a different GM. But either way, let me continue with my story. So we fixed the thing, right? We're like, all right, cool. Now we can go talk to the thing, right? So now this NPC becomes super important because he's the only one who can tell us where anything is, right? And I don't mean to be harsh, but it was not handled well. To be polite or not super whatever, but yeah, it just everything just felt off after that whole crafting thing. And then there actually was another point where he was like, you find something, and I started crafting, and I forget what happened, but oh man, there was another incident with my crafting ability that I'm not recalling, and that again made me upset.
But what was he doing? Not allowing you?
No. So the first one he straight up didn't allow. Like he said, there's nothing to salvage here. The second one, he was like, it would take too long of time, and I think we were being pursued by something that was lurking in the shadows or something. I forget the exact setup, but it was something along those lines. He was like, it's not safe right now to do that, basically. And I don't think I disputed it or anything. I think I would have, if I was up to arguing about it, I probably would have been like, all right, what if I spend, I forget if we were tier 2 or tier 1, what if I spend some effort and use this ability? And he was like, nah. But, I mean, excuse me, that's what I would have said if I wanted to argue, but I did not want to argue. Because I was already not having fun. And that's basically it, quite honestly. I think we played 2 sessions of that, and the game just kind of fell apart.
Was it only you, or was he not allowing other players to utilize their foci as well?
No. I think it was just me because I had such a strange foci, and he seemed more like a by the book, like we got to do things a certain way kind of GM. And the other people, if I recall correctly, there was no anything like super like weird or special. It was mostly like combat stuff or like interacting stuff or whatever, the easy stuff to whatever. Or, magical abilities. Or, again, I don't remember the characters at all except for mine. But, yeah, I ended after 2 sessions or 3 sessions, I forget. And he tried to get everybody to, like, write a, like, little story about what happened after the events. And, like, nobody did it. Surprise, surprise, surprise.
From what you're telling me, Al, I mean, what I'm kind of getting is no matter how you see it, before I talk about a solution, what I'm understanding or what I'm getting is kind of like, it seems more like he was railroading you as opposed to let you guys tell a story.
Basically, yes. Like, we had to rely on his NPC to know where to go.
Right.
Yeah, and again, he was barely letting me do my thing, my special thing that I was so excited about.
similar situation to Anthony's. But here's my thing when it comes to Cypher system. Cypher system, we all agree, is a great system. It's simple, but its simplicity is so elegant that it confounds people and everybody. I mean, it does.
It's true. It's true. It's actually true.
We think about how many people we talk to that try to run Cypher like D&D.
That's true.
You know, they try to systemize it. You know, big discussion that was on the Cypher system channel the other day. You know, and everybody, well, I break XP up into, you know, two different pools. There's XP to be used at the table, and then XP that you get at the end of the session that's used for advancement. And I was basically saying, you know what, that's great, but hey, I don't do that, because to me it takes away player agency. It also takes away helping the paradigm shift of resource management. So for me, my solution probably would have been, after that first session, to have a conversation with the GM, a very intimate conversation where I could be blunt, you know, would have been away from everybody else, and told him how I was feeling. And if that didn't do anything, you know, if that didn't solve it, then I would have probably bowed out, you know, the proper way to bow out, which would be like, you know what, dude, I'm done.
Yeah. I didn't say what my solution to my problem was. Yeah, so for me, it's probably the same as what Anthony said. For his response was to, like, as soon as he said, you know, I couldn't craft with the first set of stuff that he said no to, I should have been more adamant, like, hey, why can't I do that? Like, why isn't there, like, some kind of organic, like, what you call it, you know, grease or oil in the machine, or why isn't it like bio or whatever?
But and see, that's the other thing. You know, again, that's what I'm saying though. These are people who don't have. I'm not being mean, but I've encountered people with Cypher system who don't have the creative spark.
No, I get what you mean. Like,
yeah, that's why we have in this video
and another thing,
explain this.
I could have been like, again, and this is something I just thought of, quite honestly, as a way to, like, kind of persuade him, which I didn't try to do really, because again, it was my first game with this guy and whatever.
Yeah.
I could have been like, what if there's like some like flesh like in its claws from an earlier attack or something? Maybe I could take that, but again, didn't.
You were frustrated. I get it.
Okay, so from my take, from what I got from, he was telling a linear story, fine. And a linear story is fine. Like a railroad is fine. There's nothing wrong with those kinds of stories. But you have to allow the players to be special within your linear story. They have to be able to tell their mini arcs along your railroad. And it seems like he wasn't allowing you to do that. Right? I think one of the ways I would have probably handled that situation if I was you, after that first session, I would have said, hey, similar to what Dean's answer was for my problem, I would have been like, hey, do you want me to change my character? Because it seems like you're uncomfortable with me doing a character. One, it would have made him think, oh, okay, maybe I'm not incorporating his foci enough. Mm-hmm. And two, maybe he was like, oh, maybe he'll tell you, hey, yeah, could you please change your character? Because, you know, I'm not good with non-combat-y style characters.
That's a very good one, actually.
And that might have corrected the issue. I mean, it wouldn't have corrected the linear story because, you know.
No, I mean, again, I'm fine with linear stories too. It's just
I'm just saying. But my point is, that's the point within what we were talking about earlier. The players should be the stars of the show. The players.
But in defense of the GMs, the players should also help a GM when he's in trouble. If you see a sinking ship, you know, you don't watch the captain sink. You know, you try to help him.
Take out your phone. World Star, failure GM.
but you know what? And you have to understand though. And unfortunately, I've seen more on the opposite side. Many GMs, especially if they got a little bit of experience under their belt, don't take kindly to the players trying to help them because they don't see it that way. They see you as an interruption in their game. And the reason
But
why
Cypher system is designed for the players to push the narrative.
Of course.
So, if you have trouble with a player pushing the narrative, then you shouldn't be playing Cypher system.
But that's the point. And that's what I'm saying. And it's funny because I'm going to actually, my worst game ever. What's it?
I guess, are you done, Al?
Yeah, I'm done. I mean, we went over the whatever, and I just got to say that I really wish I could have crafted more. That's it. I'm going to be forever salty about that, quite honestly.
No. From me to you, take that focus in the next game we play, and I will definitely let that character shine.
I should use it for Anthony's game.
Yeah, use it for Lucas.
I'm doing that. I'm doing it.
There you go.
You're here first, guys.
And we could be messing with sewer water, and we could come up with rat liquor.
Wait a minute, aren't we the catnip family?
I'm done. I'll come up with some kind of person who crafts something, but I'm not gonna talk about exactly what.
You could be making all sorts of catnip. You could be like, hey, this is catnip Maui Wowie.
No, I'm actually gonna have a lot of fun with this character now that we had this little talk. But let's not dwell on that.
All right, so Dean, what was your worst session ever as a player?
Oh my God, as a player, it was right after I came home from the military. Now, mind you, you guys know I was in the military. I went airborne. I went air assault. I saw combat, stuff like that. Was playing with a couple of other friends who were ex-military guys as well. One guy was a Navy guy. He was a torpedo man and a shipside sniper. And then we had another guy who was playing with us, who was a cannon cocker. He was he shot off 109s, 110s, big heavy shells. But we were playing Cyberpunk, and we were a mercenary group. So you had 3 military guys. It was a 5-man party, but you had 3 military guys and a mercenary group Cyberpunk game.
That sounds like I
already see where this is going.
Oh boy. Me too.
Well, you got the 3 military guys. We get hired. The game. This is the game master. We get hired to basically steal, and if at all possible, take down a rival corporation's, base of operation in some mega city. I don't even remember what it was, like maybe Detroit of the future or whatever. Well, you got 3 military guys. We sit there, we talk to the other 2 guys. We come up with a complete, we come up with a black straight operation,
like full on, like all the lingo and all that.
Right. Yeah,
that must have been one hell of an immersive game for the guys who aren't military.
Well, it was again, and it started out great. Well, mind you, we made it through the first session. We thought the first session was awesome. Everybody's clapping high fives, We get phone calls from the GM. He asked us to come over. We're thinking it's going to be another session. He basically tells us that we were too harsh, too violent, and we didn't understand what was supposed to happen in an operation like this. Needless to say,
but was he rude about it, or was he like polite?
He was as polite as he could be, but it was sarcasm.
It was basically telling you guys, you don't know what you're talking about. So like you guys, like what?
Yeah.
And then on top of sorry, like the violence comment, like too violent in a mercenary game.
We were too violent. We were a bunch of mercenaries, but we were too violent because one character carried a 20 millimeter chain gun. We mounted it to the side of a Humvee. Okay, my character in the game was a munitions guy, so I made him dirty rounds. So he could, so his weapon would do, like extra nasty damage to people. Yeah, we were too harsh, but we're a mercenary group who was basically hired to take out a whole nother corporation. How could we be too violent?
Yeah, I can understand if maybe the goal was to infiltrate and like extract data. Like maybe he's like, oh, you guys killed like it was supposed to be a sneaky thing, but it was just to take him out.
We were supposed to steal something, and these I won't forget this. I'll never forget it because I remember I remember because this was back in the good old days when you had props, set pieces up on a board on a battle map and everything.
Yeah.
And I never forget the dossier. Matter of fact, I might still have that paper in my packages. But it said encrypted message. We need you to steal prototype guidance system, extract the scientist who was working on it, and do as much collateral damage as humanly possible, even destroy, if possible, the facility.
Oh, you see, that's why I was gonna ask. Maybe he wanted an espionage game, and your guys gave him Murder Hobo. But if he said
he asked for it.
So what made this the worst session ever? Because you said that, I mean, the worst game ever, because you said that the first session was actually fun.
The first, right. So we all go, and basically what it boiled down to, though, was that we all agreed, okay, we'll try to be a little less, violent if that's what the problem is. But you do realize we're military mercenary characters, so on and so forth. And he's like, yeah, don't worry, the next session, everything should be okay. I just wanted to bring this to your attention. So, of course, we go to play the second session. And the second session was literally this guy just nerfing everything. Couldn't find resources. Every time my character tried to work on some munitions, there was an accident or something was missing. The other guy, one of the other guys, he was known for his twin handgun play that he would do, and everybody was wearing body armor. Mm-hmm. He just completely nerfed the mercenary group, and it was like, and I know right now, I have to. If I were to say his name, I would have to give an online apology because I literally went off. I was young, I threw a handful of dice in his face.
No, no, you did that?
Yes,
no,
I was done. I could.
No.
So
was this person your friend at this point, like before, like all this, or just someone you just met? Like, if it was kind of your friend, I could see that. But if it was just some guy who's running it for yo.
No, it wasn't some guy we just met. He was like had been in a circle. We had played other stuff and everything together, but it was
that's so fucking wild. I'm sorry for apologies for my language.
Did you play a third session after that?
No, that was it.
Done.
That was it.
I think Dean's solution right there was the best solution. I'm not gonna lie. Like I might be,
but when I look back in hindsight,
oh man,
the truth of the matter is, I really should have, I probably should have taken a deep breath and like right in the middle of the game, just been like, look, man, this isn't fair. We already said that we're going to try to work on, the whole, how you're feeling about the violence thing or whatever the case may be. But, hey, we are playing a role-playing game. This is a fantasy. This is a place for us to be able to act like this. So we're not acting like this in the real world, and, you got us playing mercenaries. I should have been more diplomatic, but I mean, I was 20.
What do you mean, chucking dice in his face isn't diplomatic?
Chucking his dice in his face is the equivalent of rolling a natural 1 on your wisdom fail to not get angry. That's literally what happened.
Here, you got to understand something. In my defense, I was 26 years old. I was fresh home from Panama and Desert Shield. I was weird and sound.
So what do you think? Let's break down like the psychology of his era. Like what do you think his mindset was he said, "Hey, I'm gonna have this discussion with these guys. This I wanted an espionage game, and maybe I gave him too much, military grade equipment, I shouldn't have had a mercenary group doing an espionage game. Like,
Right.
so what do you think the solution for him would have been?
The solution would have
If
been,
you were the GM.
Oh,
if I
you
had
were the
GM, first of all, if that's the game, if that's the game I would have run, that would have been my setup. I wouldn't have been telling people about, doing massive
collateral
amounts of damage,
Mhm.
destroying the facility. My biggest thing probably would have been, I want you to infiltrate the facility and take it over. Because there's going to be useful things here that we're going to use. Because what we're going to do is we're going to discredit. I want you to be able to get this data so you can discredit the CEO and everything, and then we can go in and take over.
And
You know.
oh, sorry, we done or I don't know.
I mean, yeah. Go ahead.
If I was a GM in that case, and it already gotten to the point where I had that discussion with the group that was, causing me stress or whatever. Next session, I just still play it normally, play exactly how we played before, see how they react, how they do things. If they changed, awesome. No need to do anything else. If they continue the same exact way, then we have another talk. And that's basically it. It's like, yo, guys, you said you were going to tone it down. This is not that. I know Dean is a man of his word, so if he said he would tone it down, I guess I'm assuming that him and his buddies would have toned it down for this guy. But he wasn't given that chance.
No, we were not even that we weren't given a chance. We were nerfed.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you couldn't have fun anymore. Like,
Right,
instead of giving you the chance to still do what you do, he instead put huge roadblocks in front of you that say, "Hey, you can't do this fun thing you wanted to do. Hey, you couldn't do this fun thing you wanted to do." Which is, it's a kind of a poor choice, quite honestly. But
yeah. I mean, once again, I think what we all say, there's no right or wrong answer to attack this problem. But me, I think I probably would have adapted my story like, hey, I originally wanted an espionage game, but these guys are obviously equipped to be a combat heavy game. So as it's the responsibility of the GM or the DM or whatever, storyteller, whatever you want to call yourself, to create a narrative that fits the characters that the players are playing. So if they find they want a combat heavy game, I'm gonna adjust my story to fit that, not force them, forcing a round peg in a square hole. Like, hey, these characters are not built for what I wanted to do. I effed up, so why am I gonna put it on them for my mess up?
But see, that was the beautiful part about it, though. He could have told either story with the characters we had, because here's the deal. Like you said, you had 3 military guys. Even in the military, if you pay attention, basic training is basic training for a reason, because it makes you a soldier, it makes you a Marine, it makes you, a Navy squid, it makes you a well-rounded individual who can do multiple jobs. You may have a specialty. Like I said,
no, but what I mean is, like, I played a ton of Cyberpunk. What I mean is that if your characters were built a certain way, and he should have recognized, you said one of your guys was a demolitions guy, one of your guys was he should have recognized
from the get-go, even
from the character types that were built. You know what I mean? And steered his narrative towards the way these characters were built. I know, like, every character could be a stealthy and a fighty, but if you're fighty, stabby, you have 4 guys that are fighty, stabby, you shouldn't be doing a romance game.
Oh no, you're right, absolutely, and I agree. But what I'm saying is, there could have been a game like that. Back in the day, especially, before we had, the glory of Cypher. I remember I would always look at people's characters. I would always, ask as a GM, to see your character. Because what I wanted to do was always tell a well-rounded story. I always wanted to have those moments where, okay, guess what? You get to be fighty, stabby. But then I would shift into the role-playing aspects. I would like to see what you had on your sheet. Because you think about it, like I'm saying about the characters. My guy was a munitions guy. So he understood mechanics of the loads and the chemical compounds and stuff to blow stuff up and all of this kind of stuff. And that character was great because I could have put him in situations where, you know what, oh my God, there's a dirty bomb. There's a dirty bomb set to go off in the city. Well, we need you guys to go down there, analyze it, and figure out how to defuse it. That would have been great. Yeah, my guy likes to blow shit up. He had airfoil grenades. He had they nicknamed him Backdraft.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. You giving a story that's based on the stats on the character sheet.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm trying to make. That he should have took what was on your character sheets and craft the narrative to that. Not take 4 random characters and force feed it into his narrative.
Exactly.
Facts.
One other just quick, was there a session 0 for this? Because this looks like the type of game that could have probably been solved with a session 0.
Yes, there was a session 0, and that was the whole point.
Oh boy.
That's the whole point, because the first game we all walked out of the game, 6 hours, I'm talking about, probably that day I probably drank a 12-pack of Mountain Dew, and had
a blast.
We had pizza and shit. It was a great day. We walked out of there, we were clapping high fives, talking about him leaning out the side of the helicopter with the 20mm chain gun. We're like just having a blast. And we made these awesome characters, and then you get this call and you go over here and have this conversation, and you're like, what happened? You knew what characters we made from the beginning. You looked at them, you saw them,
you approved them.
Yeah. Literally that just really, it left a sour taste in my mouth for that type of person. I ended up playing with this guy a few other times, but
he wore a helmet every time.
What ended up happening was I realized the type of guy he was. It wasn't that he wasn't a good GM, but he lacked his own personal imagination. So a lot of times what he would do would be adapt movies and games to, I should say movies and cartoons. He would adapt them for a game. He would reskin it.
There's nothing wrong with that. I do that all the time.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. But you know what? Once I realized that I could play in his games and enjoy them. But that's what I'm saying. I didn't know. I hadn't taken the time at that point, I guess to say, to really get to know the GM and understand his style. So that's probably the only other caveat to a solution to situations. Know your GM as well. And if you accept how your GM runs things or the type of GM you have, then I think life is a whole lot better.
And I think the moral as a player is that communications either before or after the session are very important. I think all 3 of our scenarios, all 3 of our experiences could have been a lot better if communication was more open, a more open dialogue between players and GM could have solved a lot of all 3 of our problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most definitely.
So, Anthony, tell us about your worst GMing moment.
Oh, I've had quite a few. When we were discussing making this video, I was like, oh, this is going to be hard. And then I actually sat down to think about it, and I was like, this isn't hard at all. I have a couple of clunkers. If you GM a lot, bad sessions are going to happen. You can't harp on them. It just happens. But I'm going to go back to 15, 20 years ago. I used to run a lot of Heroes Unlimited, Palladium games. And we had a campaign. We had a Supers campaign that started off fantastic. I was in high school. And it actually started out as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game that switched to Cypher Unlimited. because two of the, we were in high school, two of the players left. We picked up two new players, and they didn't want to play, morphed animals. They wanted to play more superheroes. So I was like, hey, sure, why the hell, why not? And so, we had a good running campaign, but I should have realized this. I was losing interest in the overall game. We had maybe about 10 to 15 sessions, and the first 5 or 6 sessions were really enjoyable for me. I was putting in the work. I really liked the way the story arc was going. But after we finished that initial arc, I think I kept the game running 5 or 6 sessions past its due date, if that makes any sense. And each game got progressively worse. Like I did less work, like I cared less about the story. And then it got to the point where it was basically a mess of a narrative. Like nothing was making sense. And there was like 2 players that really enjoyed it, and 2 other players, one which happened to be my brother, and he would tell me this game fucking sucks. But that's what brothers do. Right? But I kept it going, and I should have realized the minute my immediate solution for this is when you're not having fun as a GM, it's okay to say, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not having fun telling this story. Even if some of the players are, you can apologize and say, hey, this isn't the game for me. Maybe I need to take a break. Maybe someone else needs to take the reins. Maybe we need to play a different system. But I felt like I ran the game 5 or 6 sessions too long, and it kind of hurt that whole summer overall experience, because I was dreading showing up, and you should never dread to show up to a game
right
that you're running, only because 2 people were really enjoying their characters, and it happened to be the people that weren't in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game, so I feel like everyone. That was another mistake I made. I should have never fused the 2 genres together. I should have said, hey, if you don't want to play this, then maybe we should all craft supers. Because, right. And also I was younger. We didn't communicate well.
One thing real fast, and I guess I can interject with my solution as well. Oh, wait. Are we talking about solutions now for your...
Yeah, you can.
But either way, I think you said Cypher Unlimited earlier. I think you meant Supers Unlimited?
No, Heroes Unlimited.
Oh, Heroes Unlimited. There we go. You definitely said Cypher Unlimited earlier.
Yeah, Heroes
Unlimited. This is Cypher Unlimited.
It was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Heroes Unlimited were both Palladium games.
But no, my solution is basically would have been your solution. Just like, as soon as this is my thing for basically anything in life. Not just tabletop gaming, like anything. If you're not really enjoying it, you should probably stop doing it.
No, you want to know how bad the game was? I halfway through a session, right? I literally did no prep, nothing. Like I was in high school. I probably smoked a joint like 5 minutes before the game started, and I made a talking whale, and they spent the whole session fighting a talking whale. That was it gets worse.
Oh no!
He was in a trailer with water in it. So, like, my brother was like, "Yo, okay, we'll tip the trailer," and the whale was just like flopping there.
Oh my god! Amazing set. That's a top tier session, actually.
It was the absolute worst session I ever ran in my life.
That's hilarious.
All I remember was like there was this flopping whale that they started wailing on. Get it? Wailing on. That was out of water. It was the worst session I ever did.
Oh,
God
man.
bless my 16-year-old heart.
That's hilarious.
Literally a fish out of water.
Yeah. I think I should have just called it in like 4 sessions before that and say, hey, like, I'm not having fun anymore, guys. Let's either play something else or somebody else take the GM reins for a little bit to let me recharge my batteries. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone gets burnt out.
It's true. Yeah, but I guess...
Do you have any solutions?
I think you said it the best. You had to just open your mouth and say something. Stop torturing yourself. I think the biggest solution is something that I think GMs and players alike remember. This is about having fun. If you're not having fun, then you're not doing it right. You know, and when you were dreading going to your sessions, man, that should have been the biggest red flag in the world. You know,
And just as a disclaimer, it doesn't matter how you have fun, as
Yeah.
long as you're having fun.
right, right. I
um,
mean, because trust me, when I first started playing D&D, I made so many mistakes. I had so many things wrong. I look back at how many things I did wrong, but we had a blast doing them wrong.
Yeah.
We had a blast together, you know. And then when we learned how to do it right, we had even more fun. So,
And you know what's funny? I think that experience affected my overall mindset on games. Even when I run campaigns, I tend to run campaigns with a maximum 5 or 6 session arc in my head, and maybe it's subliminal from that experience I had of running, this horrible session when I was younger. Like I worry about getting GM burnout, and it's not burnout of playing role playing games. It's burnout of telling
same
the
story.
same story.
trust me, I've said it 1,000 times, and I think that's probably the biggest thing that Cypher has done. It's rejuvenated me. It's given me that childlike wonder about gaming again, because I don't have to work so hard. I'm not system driven anymore. And systems, I realize there's nothing wrong with games with systems. Like, I like Savage Worlds. I think Savage Worlds is a great system. I like Cortex. These are systems that they have way more crunch than MCG games, but the crunch isn't so overwhelming. It's not Pathfinder. It's not Phoenix Command. God, Phoenix Command.
If you played Palladium, you know that you can't really wing monsters in Palladium. So
Right.
if I was showing up to a game with zero prep, you knew it was going to be a bad session.
Yeah, yeah. And he's telling the truth. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. I like being free to tell the story. So my thing to you, like I said, Anthony, the only way I would have seen that session, being any better would have been you going home and actually doing something. Like delaying the game for a couple of hours to do a little bit of prep.
And it boils down to communication. It was me being young and dumb and not, actually rather having the players quit than me saying, "Hey, I don't want to do this." Like, "Hey, I'm gonna throw a whale in a trailer full of water, and hopefully they'll throw a bunch of dice at me." Like D, you see, if D was playing, that game would have been over. He would have smacked me in the face with a bunch of dice.
Done.
We would have both went home happy.
Oh boy, I guess the real solution here is the Dean solution then.
All right, who wants to go next?
I'll
Go
go.
ahead, Al.
Yeah, I'll go next. My story isn't too crazy or anything because it actually wasn't a bad game. As you guys all already know, anybody watching, you two guys, I have not been GMing very long. It has been about maybe 3 years at this point, maybe less than that, because I started off as a player. But either way, when I first started running or started to decide to run my own game, I think it was for you, Anthony. I forget, you and our group of our D&D group. I forget if we did it online or if we did it in person. I think it was online. It was 5e, I believe.
Probably was online.
I don't remember. But yeah, so it was my first game. I was so excited. Yay! Wow, I get to try doing what Anthony does. I get to try to. Whoa! This is awesome. Then I opened the book. And I'm like, oh shit! There's a lot of stuff going on here, like armor classes and health and these special abilities and movement and I was like, oh, what am I supposed to do with this? Because I didn't really think about pre-made material because I'm not much of a reader. Even if I had a pre-made adventure in front of me, I probably would not have been able to read it. It's not that I can't read. I have a very difficult time concentrating on reading. But either way, right? So I get not intimidated, but I'm like, damn, how do I like determine how many like bad guys to put against them? Like, what do I like use? I had to like Google like challenge rating calculator or whatever. Like put in the party whatever. Like I did all that stuff. I did so much like research and like what would be the best. Like I don't want to kill them. But I also didn't want it to be like a pushover. Like and I did so much prep work with the story and like these little encounters and like for instance, like I had planned for them to walk somewhere and one of the first things they did, I believe it was Anthony, who before they left the town was like, so is there what is it, a carriage rental, a horse rental? Can I rent horses? And again, I'm a new GM. I didn't want to be like, nah, there's no horse. You can't. I was like, yeah, I guess there is. And that horse ride did just right past that encounter I had planned, like that ambush encounter, done. Like it was just out the window. All that was done. All that research and challenge ratings, all that stuff. Awful. Like after the game was done, like I'm positive we still had a fun time. Because again,
I think I played like a stuttering wizard or something like
yes, that. Yes. That was it.
Yeah.
But again, it was still
Stuttering wizard.
It was a fun game. And that's not really what made it my worst game ever because it was in fact an enjoyable game. What made it my worst game ever, and it's gonna sound kind of horrible because I didn't think about this beforehand, was that I was running it in 5e.
Yeah.
That's what made it my worst game ever. It was my first time as a GM, and I was playing with a very crunchy. I mean, it was 5e, so it wasn't as crunchy as some of the other ones, but it was still more crunch than my new. Like I was still new with the whole hobby, like.
And it also didn't help that you played with, if I recall, a group of very experienced.
Yeah,
gamers.
it was like you, Daniel, Danny. I think Jason was there too. Yeah, God bless his soul, but I think he was there too.
I love Jason, God rest his soul, but he was a rules lawyer.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
But again, the game was fun, but for me, it was my worst game ever. My worst game as the GM ever because I put so much like work into like all this research only to find out that it's pointless. Like, and that was actually a great lesson though. It was an awesome lesson. And then I got introduced to the Cypher system, which was like, yo, I could do anything with this. Like that freed my everything and is just history from there. If you guys have played in my games or seen the games I've run or play in or whatnot, like that was just it was so freeing seeing like a system that didn't require feet you can walk and like armor classes versus HP versus 18 stats. Like,
I mean, I will say this about 5e that you could take the same mindset of Cypher system and apply it to 5e, like those same scenarios that you built. Just for a solution purpose, those same scenarios that you built that we bypass, you could always reuse them, and a more experienced GM would have been able to make those adjustments.
And funny enough, I'm actually I mentioned this on a server once. I'm gonna be running a fantasy style Cypher game for some people I've met here in Arizona.
Yeah.
And I'm actually gonna rerun that adventure. Oh wait, is it? Yeah, no, I'm gonna. Yeah, I think it was that same adventure that I have in my notebook. That I had the little like map. I actually drew a little freaking map. Like I have my notebook right here. While I find it, but let's keep chatting. But like just all the research, just all the stuff I had to do just to get ready to play a game was just it was daunting to me.
Yeah, I think that
I definitely overthought it.
Yeah, you got overwhelmed and overthought. The actual, because you could. There's no different mindset in running Cypher system than running.
It's true. It's true. It really is true.
Running 5e. 5e is a very simple system when you actually think about it.
It really is.
And honestly, any game you run, becoming a more experienced GM, game master, storyteller, like we said, whatever title you want to use, referee. I mean,
the Lord.
Becoming more experienced actually kind of opens your eyes to things and how you can manipulate the system and bend the rules and everything else to make them work for you. And it's the convention that I've been saying. I think the biggest thing for you, Al, and I think you finally got it, is remember, player characters, the PCs, your friends that you sit down at the table with, love to screw up your plans.
Oh yeah, I learned that. That was that game that I learned it right there. I was like, yo, I'm not gonna plan anything from now on. Like,
And, not for nothing, as GMs, we make the worst players.
Yeah.
Because in your mind, you thinking you don't purposely do it, but you thinking of scenarios that this would be cool
if I did that.
If our characters went this way.
For example, like we play Predation, it'd be cool if my dinosaur pissed on that door right there. like, how can I plan for that? Like, who can plan for that?
Right. Listen, we're marking the territory. I mean, come on.
I didn't plan for that.
No, you can't. You don't, and that's what I'm saying. You don't think about, and that's the point. I mean, as GMs, we should be better, but nah.
But you know what I think? It's not even being evil. I just think it's a mindset you have that when you're used to running games and controlling the narrative, when you're a player, you want to, and I think that's why I love Cypher System so much as a player, is because you have some control of the narrative. Cypher System, Fate, Dungeon World, like games like that, is that the GM doesn't have total control of the story.
Right.
And in those systems, the players have some control. So as a person who normally GMs, when you're a player in those game settings, those game systems, you still have some of the GM responsibilities as a player.
Mm-hmm.
And
go ahead.
No, I was going to say on top of that, like when I'm a GM and we're talking about us as players doing wacky stuff or off the walls, like I'm gonna go that way and see what happens. I actually love when players do that. So I'm like, I'm of the mindset that if I love it, other GMs must love it. They must love it when we do funny, creative stuff, right? Like everybody loves that, right? Like,
you know what? I think,
but when you're a newer GM,
it's a little scary.
Yeah, you don't necessarily hate it, but it brings anxiety because you don't know
how to handle it. You're like,
you don't know what to do.
Where in the book is the rule for the dinosaur pissing on a door? But yeah, I think we've touched on that enough. So Dean,
man, worst session ever.
Threw some dice in my player, or my player made a mistake.
Dice in my own face.
Got so frustrated. Sorry.
The worst session ever. Probably I was in the military and I was playing new group of people, so I had no real, nothing to work from, and I went into the game, to run this Twilight 2000 game. I went into it with the mindset of running for the people I've been running for years. And that was my mistake. That was, that was a painful downfall because, and that was really kind of the day I said, you know what, I never want to hear those words again because the guys were honest with me. One guy looked at me and told me, you must be like the shittiest GM ever. I don't know how you ever got past like the front door of any game store. I mean, he literally said that to me because it was just a disaster. But I went in with the mindset of playing with people that I had always played with. I didn't take the time to know the people. I didn't do a session 0, because you got to think about it. Session 0 is really a new convention. The concept of even though me and my friends did session 0s all the time
but they weren't called session 0.
They weren't called session 0.
It was just like, hey, we're gonna talk about the game.
Yeah, it was just getting excited talking about what you want to do.
Well, we'd walk down the street. We'd be on the bus on the way to school in the morning, and you're talking about it. So that was going on. But I forgot that I didn't know any of these new guys. These guys that were going to be, at the table, and it was crazy because my solution was, I said, you know what? You're right. And then I went, fuck all you guys.
I hit them all with dice.
I picked up a whole bag of dice and just
I
Across
got
the
mad,
table.
I was like, "You're right. Fuck all you guys, and I don't want to be bothered. I'm not playing with you."
Oh boy.
let,
And
let me let me ask you a question. Did you know during the because I've when a session is going bad, you know it's going bad.
oh yeah, oh
You're
yeah.
like, oh man, I'm really laying an egg here, and it's like
Well,
you can't stop it.
well, it was crazy because um, they stopped responding. I mean, people got quiet. This was the time before cell phones, but when a guy, pulls out a book for another game,
Oh
you've
yeah.
messed up, you know, and so um so literally the session only lasted about an hour and a half. We ended it. I mean, I got mad, again, volatile, young, 19 years old, 18, something like that. And then I went back, of course, went back to my room and I thought about it, you know, and what was cool was the post that I was on. They had a rec room and they were like other people who gamed. So for about the next month, all I did was went and observed. That was my solution.
It's
You
not a bad
know,
one.
I actually went and I observed these guys, um, the guys that I had played with, some of the other guys, and I started noticing, oh, okay, I've been spoiled. I've been playing with the same people for years. I mean, the guys I played with in high school, the guys I played with before high school, you know, uh, two of the guys that I played with before high school that got into it around the same time I did. We went to grammar school and then ended up in high school together. So the same high school.
Yeah.
So I was spoiled. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, and I mean, I play with the same people all the time. So my biggest convention then at that point was I wanted to play with as many people as I could, different from me, different from where I came from, different mindsets, the whole nine, And about a year later, I ended up playing with those guys again, and it did kind of work out because they were like, one guy looked at me and said, "Okay." The same guy, the same guy that had, basically told me he didn't know how I got past the door of a game store. He's like, "Okay."
You gave him your Bob Marley, your redemption song.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just
There
had
you
one
go.
funny comment from your story. Just when you mentioned that you were going to the rec room to watch people game, that was old school Twitch. It was old school stream. You just had to be there to watch. There was
Yep.
no internet to watch. You had to actually physically. This is an awesome game.
Yep.
I mean, and I could fully understand 100% what Dean's saying. Like I had the same experience too. I played with the same group all throughout high school. It might have been like 6 or 7 different rotating characters, but it was basically the same group of guys. And you tend to get comfortable. So in your mind, that's the only way to game.
Right.
you know so I could totally understand where Dean's coming from. Like, yeah, hey, this is fun for my group of friends, but it might not be fun for everyone else in the world. you
You
know
know, it I can say that the one beautiful thing that going to the military and all of that kind of stuff kind of did for me was it gave me the internet experience before the internet, because I started dealing with people from not just different cities, different states. Then I started dealing with people from different countries. You know, we had we had a couple of guys who had one guy came from India. Never forget him, because as far as I'm concerned, he had the coolest name ever. His name was Ravia Chander, and his last name was J.R. Rahman. And so he was like, he had that crazy name. He was like 8 miles long, and got him in the game, you know, and it was cool because he wanted to start bringing. He was the first person that really, got me to start truly dragging in other mythology than just European mythology.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I had wanted to do it, because I knew there was other stuff, but this guy was, he was like the gateway. He gave me, a bunch of actual books of mythology from where he was from. So I got to delve into that and incorporate it into games and stuff like that. So what I my biggest advice to anybody out there: take your worst sessions, whatever you might consider your worst session, remember it, catalog it, and then learn from it. Grow from it and expand. Because if you do that, you'll only get better. That's my take.
Uh, I'll sign off my final take with I know this is your worst game ever, your worst session ever video, but from horrible experiences come great learning experiences. So all these bad sessions that we're talking about have made us better players, made us better GMs, have made us better friends, except for Dean, who likes to hit the face with dice. But other
Oh
than
boy.
that, other than that,
Whew.
it made us well-rounded players. So take these bad experiences, you take these awful games, and you learn from them, and they're funny stories to tell. Like I'm gonna always remember, the whale in the trail of water, and to this day, my brother, this happened 25 years ago. I'm in my 40s, my brother's in his 50s. And till this day, when I see him, we talk about RPG. We're like, you remember that sucky game you did with the whale? Like we still have this conversation. So, it is what it is. It's bad experiences are, learning stepping stones.
That is definitely facts, and I forget where I heard it. Probably some cartoon. Um, but the first step at being good at something is being bad at something. You're gonna have bad games, as a GM or a player, whatever have you. And even if it's not your fault, whoever's fault, you got to take the good out of it. Like Anthony, you got a funny story out of it. Like you can, if it's not funny, anything funny or anything happening, like you can still learn what not to do going forward, whether you be your mistake or someone else's mistake that you witnessed. Everything is a learning experience if you choose to learn something from it, which you should always try to. Without doing that, without examining what you're doing, what other people are doing, it's really hard to advance and go forward. You'll find yourself stagnant if you like. I see nothing wrong with what I did. I see nothing wrong with what he did, even though two of the other players told me that it was a horrible game or whatever. um, but yeah, that is probably the best thing to take away from your worst game ever is to make it your best learning experience ever or your best memory.
Well
You
said.
know, guys, I've been in the martial arts for quite some time now, a little bit longer than I've been gaming. And there's a quote from the Hagakure Japanese samurai, and basically it says, "In order to progress in life, one has to improve every day in an endless process." And I kind of apply that to our gaming techniques because that's what it is, guys. It's a process. We're here to have a good time. We're here to have fun, but you know, keep working on the process.
Just like any art or craft, you only get better at it by doing it.
If you do it.
And again, examining what you're doing and working on critiques and all that stuff. All everything included in getting better, you got to work on that. And yeah, I guess this is a good place to sign off. Yeah, there you go.
Al, before you sign us off, I just want to say this to our listeners. Our good buddies at Lawful Stupid RPG had an issue with the original YouTube channel, and they're trying to build back their subscribers. If you haven't, we've interviewed them before on our show, and if you haven't seen any stuff, they do absolutely wonderful actual plays, 5e, 2e,
Cypher system.
Cypher system. They run multiple games. Fate. They run multiple games on, and we starting up a YouTube channel. We're gonna put the link down below. But they had a ton of subscribers, and now they're trying to build that back up. And if you like our content, you should check theirs out. And I'm pretty sure you'll like their content as well. And please follow them and like, share, and subscribe to them.
Yep, yep. And again, as Anthony always does, he'll be sure to include a link to their YouTube down below, and to their Twitter and stuff, so you can like get updates from what they're doing and such. Um,
Oh, and by the way, like, subscribe, and share our videos too.
why you gotta steal my lines though? No, I was about to cut us off.
I was saying a line that neither one of you two guys remember to say. And don't forget to hit the notification bell.
There we go. That one's actually needed. But anyways, with that, we had a fun talk. It was awesome talking about our worst games ever, and then learning or talking about our best experience from those bad experiences and how to solve them. It was a very nice talk. Thank you so much for watching. And from us at the CU, we will see you later.
Look out, there's exploding dice.